All right. Welcome to Keeping It Real, the largest podcast made by real estate agents and for real estate agents. My name is DJ Paris. I am your guide and host through the show. And today is our monthly Coaching Moments with Ryan DeApril series. Now, if you're not familiar with Ryan, or if you're just new to the show, Ryan comes on every month to give our listeners and our viewers a coaching moment and a coaching session. So let me tell you about Ryan. Ryan DeApril is a progressive thought leader focused on providing for his agents and staff at DeApril Properties. His strengths are his motivational skills, his coaching style, and his dedication to training. He has 14 offices throughout Chicagoland, and he also has offices in Wisconsin, Indiana, Michigan, and Florida with hundreds and hundreds of top producers. DeApril Properties is really a coaching company with 8 strategic coaches who work week in and week out with every agent, individually focused on business planning, coaching, and accountability. And if you'd like to take your career to the next level, or if you're just not getting the attention you need from your current firm, check out DeApril Properties. Visit deaprilproperties.com. And welcome once again, Ryan.
Hey, DJ, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure being with you again.
Pleasure being with you. We should also mention that you have other companies. So we aren't necessarily just talking to real estate agents. You also have a lending institution, Midwest Lending. So I know this podcast gets listened to by some of your loan officers. So if there are any loan officers listening, shout out here, because again, a lot of what you talk about is really applicable across all sorts of sales, jobs.
It is. I've spoken to many companies and helped them sell hedge funds. In financial planning institutions, I've actually been a guest to speak to their sales force. Yes, we have a mortgage company. I have an insurance company, and the principles and philosophies that we teach are the same across the board. So that's it's the more things change, the more they stay the same, is what I tell everybody. And the principles are really are identical, quite honestly. It's a process. I think it's more of a system than it is an art. There's a little bit of art in it, but it's really being aware of what your craft is and what it is that you're doing, and then improving on it day in and day out.
I also think too, I think what you said is really important. So we're talking about process, and I like to call them fundamentals, because it seems to be that there is no magic bullet to becoming successful in this industry, or at least if there is, I haven't found it. But the fundamentals or the processes are great. And you mentioned that there's a little bit of art to it. What I found so exciting about figuring out somebody's processes, what is going to be successful for them, is that frees up a lot of their time to where they now can focus on the artsy sort of side of it, that putting their personality in, because their systems and processes are so in place that it allows them to have more time to focus on sort of the personality side of it.
Yeah, and I think what you need to do is you need to process and systematize how you interact with your network. And I tell everybody is, like, I'll draw on a whiteboard network and drive, and I'll write them right next to each other. And I'll ask people, what can I coach to? And a lot of people think it's drive. I'm like, I could coach you to a network, and I could show you how to grow a network, but I can't coach drive. And that's the number one thing for anybody who's listening, whether you're a lender, you're an insurance agent, you're a real estate agent. I truly, in my heart of hearts, believe success is easy. 80% of it is just showing up. That's a cliche for a reason, because it's true. Mm-hmm. And you can't coach drive. You can't coach hunger. But if you've got the drive, you got the hunger, then all you got to do is follow a system. And every year that goes by, it compounds and it gets easier and easier.
It does, because you have a bigger supply of previous clients in the wake of your business that are satisfied and happy and know, like, and trust you, and then refer business. And to all of our listeners, if you're new to this series that we do monthly with Ryan, he's a big believer in having systems around communication. So making sure that your clients are getting touched every single month in different ways. And one of the ways, sometimes I know we get feedback from listeners who say, hey, and not necessarily because of what you've said, but they say, hey, how do I stay in touch with my sphere of influence? What are some of the things I should be doing? And you've touched on those. One thing we might not have touched on yet is, and I learned this back when I was a financial advisor, they would say, read what your clients are reading. And so I saw an article today on CNN that whatever people's feelings about CNN are, I just happened to be on the CNN website, and I saw this article about.
Isn't it funny that you have to say that in today's age?
You have to say that.
Everything. Yep, I get you.
You have to say that. And I don't have any particular, it just happened to be the
I
site I
gotcha.
was on.
Yep.
But it was about the possibility of a housing crisis or a housing bubble that possibly could be bursting. And there's different, in this article, they said, hey, there's no consensus on this. And lots of people say everything's fine. But as interest rates maybe go, up to now 4%, or rather lending rates go up to maybe 4% or so, there may be in a price correction. Anyway, these are the kind of headlines that, I don't know, they got my attention and they probably get your client's attention. And so I see it as an opportunity to reach out and do one of your touches and say, hey, you might be seeing some news about this. But I'm curious on your thoughts about how to use, and I don't want to call it a negative sort of article, because the intention of it wasn't to be negative, but that's going to scare a lot of people. And I'm just curious on how you might take that information and reassure clients or sort of give them an action
Sure.
step.
Yeah. Well, so I would tell my clients, and I'd tell agents and loan officers, anybody in the back, of course, there's a market correction coming. There always has been. There always will be. It's cyclical, and I would say that directly to a client, and then I'd get to what the most important thing. Again, the reason why, right? All these quote unquote disruptors to our industry who've been around since the early 2000s. That, again, you've heard me say this on a show before. They've lost hundreds of millions of dollars year in and year out working for free, trying to take us out of the marketplace, okay, and have yet to be unsuccessful at it, all right, is because of the emotional intelligence aspect of our business and what we need. And if you do not know why your buyer or your seller are buying or selling, then you're irrelevant. And what I mean by that is, if a buyer said to me, well, Ryan, a market correction is going to come. Do you think that's true? And I'd say, of course a market correction is going to come. But why are you buying this house? Let's have that conversation.
Sure.
Are you buying this house because it's a part of your stock portfolio? Because I believe, just like Kawasaki, is it Kawasaki, Robert Kawasaki, Kiyosaki?
Yeah.
Your
Kiyosaki.
home, Kiyosaki, and I apologize if he ever hears this, and I apologize. I'm an idiot. But your home is not an asset; it's a liability.
I could not agree more. And I know there's a lot of pushback, but I always love this idea of assets shouldn't lose money on a regular basis, which of course, and meaning not lose money, but cost, be costly on a monthly basis, upkeep, et cetera. And it doesn't generate income either. It's only an asset.
No, it's a liability.
It's an asset the day you sell it. That's about it.
Well, it is. I mean, it's an asset the day somebody else starts paying for it. That's when it's an asset and you continue to own it.
Sure.
And so my point is, look, my wife and I have a home in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, and we bought it 17 years ago. Okay. I mean, we were 28, 29-year-old kids with a newborn, and we bought the lake home. And the reason why is because we wanted our children to have that lake life experience.
Yeah.
Now, up until recently, until COVID, quite honestly, let's say I paid $500,000 for that house, which is what I paid for the house. So I paid $500,000 for the home. Okay. And up until 2 years ago, you know what that home was worth?
No, I don't.
$500,000.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. To 2 years ago, after 15 years of ownership, it was worth $500,000. I think I put $100,000 down on it, and over 15 years, I paid off $100,000, but I probably paid another $150,000 in interest. That's not a good investment.
Right.
But I would not do it any other way ever again, because someday I'm not going to be on this planet. Someday my children will be adults. Actually, my oldest just turned an adult, but she's still my baby. She's 18 years old. And I bought the summer home for the quality of life. If you were to talk to me back then at 28 years old, and you were my real estate agent, which I was back then, you would have known what my why is. And my why is, well, I don't care what the market does. Here's where today is. I want in on the home, and I plan on living here for the next 15 years. And so
you really treat it like almost like a primary residence, even though it isn't your primary residence. It's just, hey, this is where we live when we're not at home.
Hey, the same story could go for my home in Western Springs. Okay, I can tell you, I'm probably, I live in the homes where that I wouldn't call them McMansions, but these beautiful homes come up, every 3 months, there's a brand new, home being built, a gorgeous in my neighborhood, multi-million dollar home being built. And, and my home's value, it's not like when my mom and dad bought in 75 for 100 grand and they sold in 2010 for $500,000. I think those days are gone, just because of how wealthy our society is and how fashion and trends change so much. And so the home that I purchased in 2010 in Western Springs, okay, and then the amount of money I've put into that home, could I get the money out of it? No. But does that mean I would do it different? No. We're dealing in residential real estate. I had a wife and 3 kids, and, people are born and people die. People get married and people get divorced. People relocate. And for our listeners here, when this market correction comes, and it's going to come, it might be 5 years from now. I don't know when it's going to come, but it's going to come. The transactions are not going to stop. I cut my teeth my 3rd year in the business in 2008. All right. It was the Great Recession. And 2008 to 2011, I sound like a broken record, but I crushed it during those years. I absolutely crushed it. And we had the Great Recession going on. So be apprised, know what's going on, read what your customers are reading. But again, in our industry, and I truly believe that a loan officer needs to be able to do this just as much as a real estate agent, because the same is true for a loan officer. There's so much emotional intelligence and balance you have to work with your buyers on this. You got to know why they're doing what they're doing, and then be able to relate them and then bring them back to that why.
Yeah, I think you're right. And that's the same thing I did. So I started reading this article and I was like, oh my gosh, a course correction. I just bought a home. And then I went, well, what do I care? I'm probably not going to be there in 3 or 4 years. I don't have any control over this anyway. Plus, it's not an investment. It's where I live, and I'm going to have to live somewhere else after that. And but again, I had to talk myself down, and have an opportunity to reach out to your clients and say, hey, I just want to, you might be seeing some stories about this, and I want to, sort of make sure that check with how you're feeling about where you're living, and and just it's an opportunity to connect.
Absolutely. 100%.
And so before I want to ask you a question, and I want you to pause on the answer because I'm going to give a quick shout out to our sponsor. But the question is going to be, so we have 2 more months of the year. We have November and December. And I would like to know, what is your number one tip? And I understand this year is pretty much over as far as closing deals. It's going to, you can probably get some additional deals closed, but what would you be doing knowing that, we're getting into the holiday season, and what could I do, not so much to finish the year strong, although that would be great, but what could I do in the next couple months that would really help me in 2022? So before we get to that, I want to pause for a quick moment, talk about our beloved sponsor, Follow Up Boss. After interviewing hundreds of top realtors in the country, do you know which CRM is talked about more than any other by our guests? This is Follow Up Boss. And let's face it, following up is the key to taking your business to the next level. Follow Up Boss will help you drive more leads in less time and with less effort. Don't take my word for it. Robert Slack, who runs the #1 team in the US, uses Follow Up Boss, and he's built a $1.5 billion business in just 6 years. Now, Follow Up Boss also integrates with over 250 different lead systems, so you can keep your current tools and sources. And they have 7-day-a-week support, so you'll get the help you need. And get this, Follow Up Boss is so certain that you're going to love their CRM that for a limited time, they're offering Keeping It Real listeners a 30-day free trial. Now, that's twice as much time as they give everyone else. And oh yeah, no credit card required, but only if you use the special link, which please visit followupboss.com/real. Once again, that's followupboss.com/real for your free 30-day trial. Follow up like a boss with Follow Up Boss. So Ryan, some thoughts on, because you coach agents, you coach top producers, you coach new agents, gosh, you guys have such an impressive set of agents at DApril Properties here in the Chicagoland and other states. What are you telling agents to do for the last 2 months here of the year?
Yeah, well, actually, it's a great segue because we have a CRM that we use. It's proprietary that we built. And our CRM actually shows you what your business is going to look like next year, and it times it out. So for individuals right now, as we're coming into November and we have 60 days left of the year, I do say that the year is over. But if you click on your prospects and you go to the timing that we have, which ours is cool, closing next year, cold, not certain they're going to hire me, warm, closing this calendar year. You look at cool, I see agents with $5 million, $10 million, $20 million in leads from primarily their network or their network referring them. Okay. I had a coaching moment with another agent regarding online leads. I'm going to talk about that for a second. But this is the time, and you need to have a CRM. You need to be tracking this information. And most real estate agents, I feel, fail at this because they don't spend time working on their business and looking at this data. But anybody that we're working with our CRM, they're looking at that bank account of business for next year, and they are looking at their data last contact. What was the touch? What are they doing? And the biggest thing that I'm always working is grabbing somebody by the collar and be like, hey, get out of your active clients tab. Get out of your under contract clients tab. Look to your left where it says prospects. Look at this bank of $14 million of business that you think you're going to have next year. And look at that. You haven't talked to these 3 people since July, these 4 since March. Like, you are going to be leaving a lot of money on the table right now if you're not getting prepared right now for the spring market. And you already know those individuals, who they are, right? You've already identified them in your CRM. Now you need to be making the frequent reach out, touching up with them, keeping it personal, making it about them, understanding their why. And if you don't, you'll be replaced. They might just walk into an open house and find something, or their neighbor down the street happens to be a real estate agent that shows them around. That's where most people lose a lot of money in this business.
Yeah, and these touches can be phone calls, they could be text messages, they could be emails, they could be replying to or commenting on someone's social media post.
I think, yeah, exactly. I think direct messaging on social media, I try to tell people, don't think of commenting on their social media as a touch. My birthday was the other day. I was sick as a dog under the covers, and and I had it for like 3-4 days in a row. But I think I had like 400 happy birthdays. I didn't even see one of them. Right. I couldn't keep up. And plus I had the aches and the chills. I mean, it was the worst. I think I got that rhinovirus that everybody was getting. I got tested for everything, but it was a virus. Regardless, a direct message is equivalent to a text message or a phone call. So your reach out should be a phone call, a text message, or a direct message via, whatever it is, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, however, whatever social media channel that your client, your network uses, right? You have to use them all and adapt to it. And direct message, and don't fall in the trap of, writing on their wall. Oh, so cute, the dog you just posted, right? Writing that on the wall. That's not gonna, you got to connect with them and try to create a dialogue.
Yeah, and I've always thought LinkedIn gets really underutilized for this, because just today, for one of the little companies I have an ownership interest in, I guess it was my work anniversary, which I had no idea, and I started getting just a handful of happy work anniversary. And I'm like, I didn't even know it was my work anniversary, and those didn't really matter to me. But I thought, boy, if I was a salesperson and I wanted my business for whatever, I would figure out a way to direct message me or to find me. I mean, I'm not hard to find. Send me a phone, send me a text, shoot me and say, hey man, just saw that and work anniversaries, maybe that's not such a big deal, but you could say when somebody starts a new position, when they get promoted. I just saw one of my friends at Zillow just got promoted, and I shot her a quick text message like, hey, saw you got promoted. That's amazing. And she was like, wow, thanks. You're the only person that texted me about it other than her coworkers. So, and it meant a lot to her, and we're just buddies, but I thought, that's a great opportunity. LinkedIn actually tells you when people have these major work milestones.
I was having a conversation with a broker owner the other day down in Florida, and they went virtual, probably 30, 40 agents. And he made a great comment to me. He said, and they're seeing a decline in sales, right? And he said to me, you're productive until you're not.
Right.
And I was like, wow, that just says a lot. And what he was saying is they went virtual, right? It was working until it doesn't work. and now they're going the other way. And I tell every person that works at our organization that, we have these offices and we're opening up more offices because you got to get out of your house.
Yeah.
You've got to work on your business. I started my career as a real estate agent in 2004, late 2004, 2005. And I had an office I went to 2021, right? How many years later is 16 years later, I still go to the office every single day.
Me too.
I'm telling you, real estate agents, like, you guys, get the hell out of your basement. This virtual stuff, I don't think it's healthy. I understand there's an element of it where you can do it, but you need to run your business. You don't get paid in real estate. You don't come to a real estate brokerage. You don't get a salary. You don't have a manager. You are starting your own business. And the biggest thing I can tell you now in November and December, what's coming on for next year, get into the office. When there's nothing to do, get into the office. Get into your CRM. It's called the dashboard. Get into your dashboard. Work on it minimum 3 days a week, just like any other business owner who wants to keep their doors open does. And, if you were to drive by a storefront of a small business and see that the lights were out and the door was locked 4 days out of the week, right? You'd say to yourself, that guy's going to go out of business. They're not even open for business. Yet real estate agents stay home. They get in their habits. They work from home. And damn well what's happening. They're doing the dry cleaning. They're talking about their active deals, right? But they're not working on their business. And that's going to catch up to you, and you're productive until you're not. And that's where the peaks and the valleys of this business occur. And people got to pull themselves out of the valley. And you don't need to if you could stay consistent and get into your office 3-4 days a week and work on your business 1 to 2 hours a day.
I've tried many times over the last, I would say 15 years to work from home. I've tried. I want to be able to do that because, boy, it just seems so great. It seems so efficient. I can't do it. And maybe there's that rare person that somehow can, but I don't know how anyone's more effective and productive at home. So, even if I worked at a company like EXP where there aren't physical offices, and assuming I could afford it, I'd rent rent an office
somewhere.
Go to Regis or a place like that.
Yeah, you do. You have to, and just ask yourself, is it working? And if it's working, great. And is it not working? If it's not working, are you working from home, your kitchen table, your phone in your basement? Go to a place that's going to get you into another mindset that's going to have you focus on working on your business. And it's nice to be in an organization where you're next to other top producers. I tell all my agents, when I go to office, I see all the usual suspects, and it's the top selling real estate agents there all the time. Hey, DJ, don't you have a 5 o'clock hard stop?
I do. I wanted to end with just one more thought. And yes, so thanks for reminding me of my obligations,
Sure.
because I had forgotten I was having so much fun with this call. And what I was going to say is, and get your thoughts on, is you were talking about those producers you have who are going into their dashboard in your CRM and sort of seeing the most important maybe part of that outside of your active clients, outside of the customer service stuff you have to do day in, day out to close deals, but looking at your contact list, your sphere of influence, and saying, maybe the most important metric there is, when's the last time, last touch, last communication. And maybe just everyone listening, make a pact that you will have no people in that database that doesn't hear from you every single month in some capacity in 2022, and just see what happens by the end of 2022. I would be shocked if you don't get more referrals, or more of those people in your database use you, or both. I'm just using once a month as just a
no, it's once a month. That's the way to do it. And I'll tell you one thing: I've never ever seen anybody do it and it not work for them, but I've seen people not do it and they struggle. And I'm like, why do you make this complicated? Why is this complicated? And when I'm ever in a room of people, right, say it's 20 people, right, coaching, I'll say 20% of you, which comes to 4, only 4 of you are going to do what I'm telling you to do. 6 of you are going to get entertainment. What entertainment is: education with no action equals entertainment. So I'll be your clown for 2 hours, but there's 4 of you here who's going to hear what I'm telling you. You're going to lock on it, And these are the ones that are going to make 150, 300, $450,000 a year. And it's like a Greek tragedy, but it's the 80-20 rule, and you can't get away from it. So I try to bring everybody aware of, like, look at who's going to be the 20% that are going to walk out of this room and do what you just said for the rest of the year, for the year 2022. Sadly, in that group of 20, there'll be 4. And those are your top of the top. And what those 4 did was not hard. It was not hard, but you can't coach drive. You can't coach drive. You could teach and show discipline over time. And if somebody's willing to do that and they get the right activities, they'll become disciplined. And then this just becomes autopilot for them.
Yeah, it's so well said. And I will leave with one other idea that I'm stealing this from our guest, Ryan, but it is, if you are struggling with drive, if that's something you probably, and Ryan, I think would agree with this, is you probably haven't, or maybe you haven't well-defined, or maybe you did well-define this and forgot it, but you probably haven't well-defined your why. Like, Ryan has a very specific why for all of his different businesses, and they involve his family and the feelings he's going to have with interacting with them and being able to have freedom to do certain things based on the success of his businesses. And he knows his why. You've talked about it many, many times here on the show. If you need to, write it on a Post-it and put it on your mirror. It sounds silly, but remind yourself of your why. That will help, I think, give you a little bit more strength when you have those mornings where you're like, I just don't want to do anything.
Yeah. And ask yourself, how many hours of the day was I unconscious? I mean, literally, was I just not conscious of my actions, my behaviors? I mean, if you could be conscious and you could take conscious action, deliberate practice, oh God, I'm forgetting her name. Angela Duckworth said deliberate practice. If you could have deliberate practice 1 to 2 hours a day, dude, I mean, that's just a compound for you. And again, it's easy, but it's a choice. And most people, unfortunately, make horseshit choices, just terrible choices with their time. But success, in no doubt, success is a choice. You either choose to have it or you choose not to, through your habits.
Awesome. Well, this is a great place to wrap up this episode. We will see Ryan on next month's episode of our Coaching Moments. We're so grateful to Ryan. He is he's probably the busiest person I know, and he takes time out of his incredibly busy schedule every month to be on our show. So please, if you live in any of these states, Illinois, Wisconsin, Indiana, Michigan, Florida, and you are like, I am not getting great coaching and support for my existing firm, or you just want to see what else is out there, check out DApril Properties. Go to DAprilProperties.com. They just have hundreds of top producers. They're amazing. Ryan coaches as well, and the coaches he hires. I've visited his headquarters. It's just beyond impressive. So definitely check out DAprilProperties.com. Also, if you're a loan officer and looking see what other firms are out there, check them out. Midwest Lending is the name of the lending institution. So everyone go out there, visit DAprilProperties.com. And on behalf of the audience, I want to thank Ryan for his time today. He always brings great content to us. And on behalf of Ryan and myself, we want to thank the audience and our listeners and viewers for continuing to support our show. I think we're at about 310 episodes. We have more listeners now than we ever did. That's thanks to you guys telling a friend about the show. Please send this Coaching Moment episode to one other, either loan officer that could use a little motivation boost or strategy boost, or another realtor that that could benefit from hearing from Ryan, and send them a link to our website. So you can send them right over to keepingitrealpod.com. All of our episodes are there. And also thanks to our sponsor, Follow Up Boss, for continuing to support our show. So Ryan, thanks so much, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks, CJ.